Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you for watching another spine-tingling episode of Need More Coffee Please with Cisco and Melissa. I'm Cisco.
I'm Melissa.
And last time we left you, I was in the ICU after the hospital elected not to give me a stomach port and a tracheotomy, thank God. So I'm in the ICU, and then I was only in there for about a couple days after that.
Yeah, so once they determined you didn't need the stomach port, then it was really quick after that they moved him out from the ICU into the PCU. He was only there for about 24 hours, and then he went into inpatient rehab.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I started doing inpatient rehab to try to start my recovery process. And so thankfully, I didn't have to do all the other stuff because that really would have delayed a lot of that stuff. So I was in the inpatient rehab for a couple weeks?
It was about 3 weeks.
For 3 weeks.
3.5, something like that.
And then they started giving me exercises to build back up my strength, my coordination, to help me with my vision, all three of which were just an absolute disaster. I was basically starting off with the motor skills of a toddler.
Mm-hmm. Sorry,
no,
just to interject, but inpatient rehab basically gets you ready to go home. So they get you to a place where you can, be safely at home. And then we'll get into this in a little bit, but after inpatient rehab, he went into what is called day neuro. And that's a more intensive rehabilitation. I think we kind of touched on that last week, but it's specifically for people who have neurological disabilities. So a lot of stroke patients, but then people who've had illnesses that have resulted in neurological stuff. So, and that one is just more intensive, and that gets you ready to go back into either your job or like your regular life. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. So I was there for a little bit. It was good. I remember bits and pieces. It's a little fuzzy, the stuff I do remember, but I do remember, exercising. My therapist was great, super helpful, really funny, great personality, and you could tell she really loved what she was doing, which was really helpful. And she got along with us really well, which was good also. And did all kinds of exercises. Some of them were frustrating because some of them, like, it was just walking or going up the stairs or,
getting in and out of a car.
Yeah, getting out of a car, looking at stuff, trying to read. And it's like, these are things I've done all my life with no problems, didn't think twice about them. And then all of a sudden, I really had to concentrate on stuff. Like I think you said she made me, or she asked me to list like some fruits or something like that.
Yeah, so that was in speech therapy. They, a lot of memory geared stuff that they would do. And so it was like stuff you would be asking a preschooler, like, name, give me three types of fruit, and he would take like a while to think of one, and then he couldn't, and this was in the beginning, and then he could not think of any others, and that was like, what? Or an animal, or just very simple things like that. And it would take him so long to like, the processing time was shocking, considering where he was, it wasn't that shocking, but looking back, right, sure. It's like, wow.
Thankfully we could look back at that, and that was a year ago, and just say, wow, I've come a long way. Thankfully, that's the case because I literally had the recall and the thinking ability of like a toddler. I mean, that's what you would ask, kindergartner or younger, like name fruits or animals or whatever. And it really took everything within me to think of those. So it was tough. Some of it was tough and it was frustrating because I was able to do those things so well before, obviously, and now I couldn't. And it was just difficult for me to understand, how I was here, where just a couple weeks before that I was totally fine. And then just like that, like things changed so drastically. So, that was tough, but it was good. I progressed quite a bit right about that time.
You went 3 weeks. In 3 weeks' time, he went from not being able to feed himself, not being able to walk at all. There's a video. We'll put it up right now, but there where he was his first time walking with a walker, and his physical therapist is like she was completely holding him up. And by the end, by the end of that 3 weeks, when he would walk down the hallway with his walker, she would just have like a hand lightly just guiding him. And it was more for the sake that he was, crashing into walls because of his eyesight. Not so much because he was so weakened and had no balance. He gained a lot of that back by the end. So it was really exciting. And I mean, it seriously felt like we were on this like downhill roller coaster ride of watching him progress, and it was so fast. Which is crazy. Like the brain, again, is such a crazy thing. Like it's memory, like the muscle memory, and then your brain's ability to compensate and kind of bounce back is fascinating. But
yeah, and it's like, yeah, you went from a baby to a toddler to a kindergartner,
90-year-old man.
Yeah, and it's like that. I went way backwards, but yeah, I was going forwards, and I still wasn't where I was supposed to be. I wanted to be, obviously, and like, for example, I had those problems with the walker and had somebody holding them up, and today I went on a run by myself, and I pushed myself hard, and that was something that I couldn't have even think of. It wasn't even on my mind to do something like that a year ago. So I'm thankful for how much I've progressed and where I've gotten, thanks to the Lord ultimately, but the therapy, and the exercises and the lessons they gave me, and the support from Melissa and the kids and the family, was huge. Like I wouldn't obviously wouldn't be here because if it wasn't for them. So they were doing speech therapy, physical therapy, and occupational therapy, all ready to trying to get me ready to go home. And it was good. Like I said, it was hard work, but it was good. And unfortunately, that therapy only lasted about 3 hours a day ish.
Yeah. So each therapy, so speech, occupational, and physical, each one had an hour where they would work with him probably 5 days a week. Sometimes, it was about 5 days a week because you didn't do it on the weekend. And it wasn't always all three of them every day. But usually his physical therapist, she really loved him, but she was amazing, and she would usually about 6 days a week she would work with him. So that lasted, he was there for about 3.5 weeks, and then you graduated home. On May 3rd, he came home, and then he began day neuro about like 3 or 4 days after being home. So, and that was 2 hours each therapy, um, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 days a week. So 6 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Which was,
it was a big change.
Yeah.
It was big. It was from what 9 a.m. to 3 technically, but then they
It was
would
about an hour away.
Yeah, they would pick me up in a van, and they would pick some other people. They had a little route, so it would take me about an hour to get there from here. Then we had lunch in the middle of the day, and then they would take me home. So by the time I got home, it was probably like 4-ish or something like that. So it was a pretty full day. It was about an 8-9 hour day by the time it was all said and done. And those first couple of weeks, I was beat. They really worked me hard, which I needed. I needed, and I progressed really quickly through that therapy. But yeah, those first couple of weeks, I just go home and pass out. I was really tired physically and mentally too. They challenged me a lot, mentally, trying to look at things, read things, hand-eye coordination. And I didn't really realize how taxing that was, and how taxing mental exercise can be just on your physical body, how it can exhaust you. So I was beat. I wasn't used to that schedule.
And also everything you'd been through, your brain, like a big part of healing for your brain is sleep. I think they said you heal 10 times faster when you're sleeping. Like your brain is healing 10 times faster, which is insane. So yeah, thankfully he has had great sleep ever since this all happened. He had terrible sleep before.
Yeah, for sure.
And now
always had bad sleep.
He is out for rock. So
yeah, especially during that time. I would go to bed at probably 9 p.m. or something. And when I hit that pillow, I was gone. And that was never the case. Like, ever since I was a little kid, like, I always had a hard time sleeping for whatever reason. So that was good. And even to this day, I sleep really well, thankfully. I feel like I need, whereas before I was sleeping like 10 hours a night, or give or take
10 to 12.
Yeah, 10 to 12. Like, I'm needing less and less as time progresses, which is good. So I'm about 8 to 9 hours a night. I still need the sleep, and I still need the recovery and all that, but I don't need it quite as much as I used to. So, which is good. Definitely improving, and have improved in a lot of ways. So the sleeping schedule lessening is definitely another sign of that progression, which I'm thankful for.
And also, when, like, if you are in a situation, similar, or with someone who has had a traumatic brain injury, it's good for them to be sleeping a lot, in that early recovery time. That's actually a really great sign that they're able to sleep. That's not always the case. A lot of, sometimes they'll sleep really good and then they won't be able to sleep at all, like very much, and that's not good. Because again, your brain is healing 10 times faster when you're sleeping. So that's not ever something to be like concerned about when they're sleeping. It was like, especially for him, because he was such a light sleeper and a terrible sleeper. It was, shocking to see how much he could sleep. And how deep it was. Like, he was just out. But that was, a really good sign. So
yeah, for sure. So obviously I was home when I was doing that rehab, which was good. It's good to be home. Definitely slept better in my own bed, in my own house, as opposed to that hospital. In that hospital bed, which wasn't super comfortable, and nurses would be coming in and out, doing their thing, and waking me up in the process. And it wasn't necessarily their fault. That's just what they got to do. So I understand. And I remember some of those nights during rehab. Um, I was sad that it was only a couple hours, 3 hours a day, because the rest of the time I was bored, and I started progressing pretty quickly. And as time went on, thankfully it didn't last that long, but towards the end, I was really like, oh, I could do, like I knew I could do more, and I really wanted to do more, but that's just what the time they had allotted. And so, um, the rest of the time I had to sit in my bed, lay in my bed, and just be bored. Thankfully, Melissa and the kids were there coming to visit me by that time. My family from Jersey and Melissa's side of the family from California had left. So it was just us, really. And, some of those times were tough. And especially at night, I think visiting hours were over at 8 or something?
Um, Something like that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was usually by the time that I would leave.
Mm-hmm.
Because the kids had school and stuff like that.
Right,
So.
right. Yeah. So, they left around 8 at night, and I was still, even if I went to bed at 9 or 10, or went to sleep at 9 or 10, I still had that hour or two of just laying in bed, by myself, just trying to figure out like what the heck happened, like why I was there. Like I still couldn't wrap my mind around what happened. It really was taking me a long time to kind of process all of it, and it took me months really to really like process it, accept it, understand it, and accept what the Lord was doing, and accept where I was at. And it was tough. There was definitely some dark nights. um, there was definitely times where I, wet my pillow with my tears, like it says in Psalms. Like I just was scared and angry and confused, and just, not accepting what was going on, what was happening, and not understanding. And, so sometimes I would just, at night when I was by myself, I would just turn the TV on, even though I couldn't really see. Um, just to have noise in the background. Sometimes the TV would stay on all night, and I wake up in the morning and it's still on. Because I didn't turn it off in my sleep. And sometimes that noise would just help me, and subconsciously I absorb some things, especially the Burger King commercial,
Yeah.
which they seem to play
Pretty
every.
much that was like the only commercial.
Yeah, and like every
that or
commercial,
a pharmaceutical, like some drug.
yeah, so it's like the BK Have It Your Way theme song is like stuck on my head. And whenever I happen to hear it, watching TV or whatever, like it brings me right back to being in the hospital room. Like it's crazy the way your memory works that way. But yeah, there was definitely some lonely, dark times. And even when I came home and I was home going to rehab, even those times that I did sleep well, but there were periods of time where it'd take me a little bit to fall asleep, or I wake up in the middle of the night, um, or whatever. And yeah, I really just had a hard time. And during the day, I had a hard time too. Sometimes I'd get back from rehab and be good. And while I was at rehab, I was doing really well and interacting with a lot of the other patients there, and with the therapists who were amazing. But then I got home, and it was relatively quiet. And I was hard. I was depressed, and there was just a lot of things going on in my head. Obviously, we weren't. I wasn't working. Melissa wasn't, because she was basically my full time caretaker at the time. and just stressing out about, bills and rent and when am I going to go back to work, if I'm going to go back to work, driving, all of that stuff, would like freak me out and just kind of put me in a depressed, angry, anxious mood, and I've never been one of a, much of a talker anyway and expressing my feelings, but Melissa would ask me, "What's wrong? You okay?" Because I would like sigh heavily,
Yeah, over and over.
you know, these deep sighs when I was really thinking about something or freaking out about something, and she would just ask me, "What's wrong? What's wrong? You okay? What are you thinking about?" Nothing. And yeah,
which is usually like that's how he's kind of always been.
mm,
But yeah, it was like just so magnified after the
mm,
stroke, and and the depression was real and it was scary. Like, to be honest, not always, but there were some really dark days with him. And that is another very common after effect of a stroke. And sometimes it's really bad and they can't snap themselves out of it. So I think I was just very aware of that and like, that is not going to happen.
yeah,
And he'd be stressing about all these things and I wasn't somehow like, God just had me in this like protective bubble for many months, where all the things that, that he mentioned he was stressing about, I normally would be stressing about them too. And I was not, like, at all. The second it would, start to like come in my mind, I was like, this is God's thing. Like, this is his deal. So he's going to take care of it. And I knew I had the like strength and mental capacity to, do that for myself. And I knew he didn't. So I was always, talk to me, like tell me what's going on. And it took a while before he,
yeah, it did. And seeing her, because like you said, she would stress out about those things. We kind of do at the same time. We kind of would feed off of each other a little bit as well during those times. And seeing her just being calm, cool, and collected during that whole time was really like, at first I was like, what the heck? Why isn't she freaking out about this too? And then after a while, I started to see like, wow, she's really okay. Like the Lord has really given her a peace about this, and she was always. She was always in she was always in a good mood, and even keeled and patient. And loving, and she really did such an amazing job taking care of me and the kids and the whole family. She really made it a point, and she really wanted to make sure that I didn't worry or stress about anything, and it was just amazing. I mean, it was unlike anything I've ever seen from her. Not that she would lay any burdens or anything on me, necessarily, but the way she took that.
It was the Lord.
Yeah, no, it was it was not her. It really couldn't have been any human, honestly. It was the Lord with what she had going on, and between me and the kids and the house and the bills and all the cares and the worries, the fact that she was the way she was just unbelievable. And the way she and the kids took care of me was just amazing, to the point where it was kind of annoying. And like I said, anytime I would sigh, she was on it, asking me what's going on. Every time I spent most of my life on the couch for those first couple weeks. As soon as I got home from rehab, I just sat my butt on the couch.
Well, you couldn't. You were the only way he could walk was with a walker.
Yeah,
it wasn't like
too.
he was
right.
Being
And not that I was being a lazy bum or couch potato, but
yeah, like walking was a very precarious situation. That his balance was very off still. He didn't know his way around the house. He would get up and walk into the kitchen. And this was a little bit later even, but for a long time, for I don't know, maybe a month or two, like he was straight up lost in our house. And our house isn't that big. House, yeah. But he'd go in the kitchen and we're like, what are you looking for? And he's like, I'm going to the bathroom. And, so we'd have to, shuttle him over to the bathroom, and he would get so annoyed at us, but we were just more aware of what the situation was. And it was honestly, I was terrified of him falling. Like that was not going to happen on my watch. After everything that we went through in the ICU, that, thankfully in inpatient rehab, they were on it. They had a babysitter, 20, like around the clock for him, the entire time he was in there. And once they, he didn't need an actual person there. They had this,
robot camera thing.
It was a camera, and if he would start to get up,
somebody would yell at me.
They'd be like, Cisco, what are you doing? And alert a nurse, and they would come in. So thankfully we felt so good with him being in inpatient rehab, and then with him coming home, I was like, nothing like that is happening, because it only would take one fall, and him hitting his head, and we'd be right back in the
square
ICU,
one, if not even worse. If not going a step backwards. So yeah, every time I try to get up, where are you going? What are you doing? What do you need? So I was annoying at the time, but I know they did it out of love and concern, and they really didn't want me or themselves to go through that again, and I didn't want to put them through that again. I was being selfish at times, for sure. That's how I was getting annoyed and mad that was going on. But it's like at the same time, like I was always in my right mind.
Exactly. Like, and that's like one of the other common after effects is impulsiveness, which had a lot to do with his constantly trying to get out of bed, too. That you're just not, like, you're still thinking you're how you were before you had the stroke, right. And that makes sense. Someone who is 45 and has been taking, going to the bathroom by themselves their entire life, like it's hard to remember, when you've only been aware of what's going on for the past, for only a couple weeks, and then, to remember you have to ask someone to take you to the bathroom, or, to put your shoes on. Like it's a whole new way of life. And, yeah, there was one point where he had started walking. He was out of the walker. Um, he was walking, pretty well by himself, and uh, but mentally, like he wasn't. He still would, when we were out driving around, like he wouldn't know where we were at. He would get lost a lot, just yeah, being around with us, and where are we at, asking me and stuff. So there was a lot of cognitive disability still. And one day he I went into the bathroom, and all of, after a couple minutes, Daniel texts me and he's like, "Where did Dad go?" And I'm like, he was in the living room, and he had seen on our Ring camera that he had just left, and he left his phone. He didn't tell anyone he was leaving or where he was going, and he just walked out and and so me and the kids were like freaking out because our neighborhood, like, the sidewalks are all cracked, and like it would be very easy for him to get lost and or fall, and he had no way of getting a hold of anyone. So the kids took off running to go find him. I threw some shoes on and went after him, and they found him. Thankfully everything was fine, but I kind of lost it and was like, "You cannot do this ever again." So he learned his lesson.
Yeah.
But it's just there's so many things like that you don't think of, and then and you feel bad for them because that they don't understand fully what the consequences are for something like that. Thankfully he never tried to drive. I did have dreams, and I think some of the kids did too, where you'd have a nightmare of him driving.
Yeah, that would have not lasted very long. No. I wouldn't have barely got out of the driveway before. Yeah, and I remember when she pulled up in the car to pick me up, and she was so mad, and I was like, "What? I'm fine. I'm just I'm going on a walk. What's the big deal?" Like in my head, I really didn't think like it was that big of a deal. I didn't think it was gonna happen. I was gonna be okay, And then later that day or the next day or whatever, it kind of dawned on me like, what am I doing? Like, I'm being so dumb. Like, I was basically just testing myself, like, see how far I can go or I can push myself or whatever the case may be. But I wasn't thinking about her and the kids. I wasn't thinking about them and their concern and them taking care of me, or what would happen if something happened to me. What would they be going through, what would they think or do. So that was the first and the last time I did something like that. For sure. And definitely learned my lesson. And she from day one when I got home, she was doing things like she pushed our bed up against the corner,
like against the wall.
Yeah, against the corner of the wall. So and I slept on the inside. Yeah, I slept on the inside. So the only way to get out was either like shuffle my butt down to the end of the bed or crawl over her to like go to the bathroom or whatever. She really wanted to trap me in there. If she could have put me in a man-sized crib with walls, she probably would have, just to keep me locked in. And whenever I would go to the bathroom, of course, she felt it. Because I was
trapped.
I was trapped, and I was moving around and making a bunch of noise. She always flashed the light of the camera so I could see. So she always was there taking care of me. Her motherly instincts kind of kicked back in after,
it did. Big time.
After a long time. So it was just amazing to see that, and to see how she acted and how she reacted to things, and the kids too. Like the kids, were amazing despite, seeing me in the hospital with tubes sticking out of me, seeing me in a diaper, seeing me in a wheelchair and a walker. Like, they really took such good care of me, and they really made sure everything was okay. And
they'd always argue who was going to push him in his wheelchair.
Yeah. That was probably fun for them. Because at first, when we go out, which wasn't very often, especially at the beginning, I had to be in a wheelchair. Like, I couldn't just walk around. And that was
he could walk with a walker, but it was
I felt more secure in a wheelchair.
For sure. And we all did too, because he was still crashing into everything, So if it was like a short distance, like 10 steps, he could do the walker, but most of the time the wheelchair was just safer. So thankfully that didn't last very long. It was, maybe a month, month and a half at max, was the amount of time that before he was good walking on his own, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
And like I said, we're like, I made a reel of kind of his progression from being, starting out in inpatient rehab to today, and so you can find that on our social media accounts. We'll have that posted this week, to kind of show that, because it's wild, like what all transpired in a year.
No, it's
and how far you've come.
Pretty insane. And I was, when I was in the behavioral therapy, especially, there were a lot of other patients there. I was definitely one of the younger ones. For sure, there was a lot of, there were mostly stroke patients, and some others with some other neurological issues going on. Some of them I wasn't exactly sure, but some of them had paralysis in half their bodies and different things like that in their face. Pretty typical symptoms of what you would think of as a stroke. And I didn't have any of that. I had a different kind of stroke that didn't have those kind of symptoms. But, seeing some of the older people, struggle and really, work hard to try to get better was good. It was inspiring to me as well. And they got there through, who knows how they got there. And just like me, I don't know how I got there. Like, it doesn't really make sense, where I was at physically and all that. Maybe it was a genetic thing that we just didn't know of. I got, I have no clue, how we got there, but it was good getting to know, some of those other patients and seeing where they're at. And some of them, might have been there a little bit before me, and they had like a driving teacher there as well, that would help people get back behind the wheel, and just kind of be a driving teacher before they actually went to the DMV to get their license back. So they would practice in the parking lot just to make sure. I didn't even attempt it because I knew I wasn't there yet. My vision was still really screwed up, and physically I could have done it, except for my eyes. Like, my eyes just weren't there. Mentally,
I don't think so.
Mentally I wasn't there either. I just wasn't able to focus on driving. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot more than you think to drive. I've been doing it for so long that you don't really think about it that much. But watching my kids starting to learn how to drive, you start to realize like how much you got to watch for and listen and be careful of and all that. And I couldn't do it cognitively, and I don't know if I still can. Like, my eyesight has gotten much better, but My peripheral is still, left periphery is still pretty much non-existent. It's just not there. I think it's getting better, but I haven't even attempted it. I joked with Melissa a couple times, but she didn't think it was that funny, so I kind of dropped it.
I mean, up until honestly his latest like recovery burst, which was a month or two ago. Yeah, it was completely out of the question. But yeah, I mean, it's still like, I think, a ways out, but I think he's at the point where I don't see it as being like absolutely not, no way.
Yeah, there's definitely more hope now, for sure.
Yeah. So we'll see. They, like you said, they do a whole driving thing. They don't just like throw you out on the road with your license. They really make sure that you're able to do that. So hopefully in the next, maybe this year, maybe next, he'll be able to.
Yeah, that'd be nice. It's been a while. It's been a year.
Yeah.
Pretty much since I've driven, and try to joke around with Melissa and do the gasp and the when she's driving, that like she does to me, but she didn't think that was funny. I almost walked home one day, so that was the last time I did that. But so seeing some of those patients was good, and interacting with them, and again, the therapists there were amazing. And I really progressed a lot. Went again from a wheelchair to a walker to a cane to just walking on my own. Especially at the beginning, still bumped around. Even though I had this house pretty much memorized, I was here just over a year before the stroke. Still bumping into doorways, bumping into the kitchen table. I had to, if I did go upstairs where the kids' bedrooms are at, I was hanging onto that banister for dear life, so I wouldn't fall. And when I would come down the stairs, it was again gripping onto that banister, taking one stair at a time, because I was terrified of falling. So I went from that to now I can go up the stairs two at a time with no help, and it took me a while to get to that point, but I really tried to, kind of push myself safely to do that, and I can go on the stairs with no help pretty quickly as well. Not as fast as I used to be able to, for sure, but maybe I'll get there. Maybe by the time I do, I'll be too old to do that. I don't know. But I'm thankful for where I'm at, for where the Lord has brought us, and really a lot of it, even though I did have those dark times and those scary and uncertain times, the Lord has really brought me through it, and has given us as a family a new life. Really, it's so much different and so much better now than what it used to be. And it was kind of one of those things that's like, we were just living life before this, and it's not like we thought our life was terrible, or anything like that, or we thought we were stuck in a rut or anything. But now looking back, we realize, we kind of were, we were working so much just to pay the bills, and we barely had time for anything else. And we were in jobs that we kind of liked, but weren't necessarily our thing. We felt like, maybe the Lord had something more, but we didn't know how to, like, you don't just jump off of that merry-go-round just like that. We weren't hippies. We weren't like super anti-establishment where we were just gonna stop working and go live in a trailer and, travel around the country, even though that sounds kind of awesome right now. But, that just weren't where we were at, mentally, and spiritually. And now, the Lord has taken us out of that, rat race. And obviously we're not working anymore, but the Lord has provided for us this last year. Like, we can't even believe, how he has, how good he's been. Yes, there were times of worry and stress and anxiety, and we were scared, or at least I was,
I just
yeah,
was
she,
able
she
to.
did she did a better job of hiding it, for sure, than I was. And I think I dwelled on that stuff and worried about that stuff more than she did. And so there were definitely periods of time where I didn't trust the Lord like I should have been, and I kind of took my eye off the ball, in that sense, and there were plenty of times where I would just kind of feel bad for myself and throw myself a pity party of what I couldn't do, and what I could do before and where I was at now. And I kind of mourned, I was in mourning a little bit, just kind of mourning what I couldn't do any longer, and you know mourning who I was before and who I am now. And in those times when I did feel bad for myself, I didn't, um, think about how good God has been, to us during that time, and I was.
And it wasn't like I didn't go through those things,
Mhm.
because I did. But it was just when you were
In the
in the
hospital,
hospital,
out of my
and
mind.
yeah,
Yeah.
or in the ICU, and so it's not like we're delusional, or like things are so great, even though
Mm-hmm.
they are. Um, you know, but it's more of a like how you choose to look at things. And I think God is just, I don't know, from early on, I think just really like spoke to me so much how he, there was a purpose in all of this, and it wasn't, to destroy us.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good. You're good. No, I mean, obviously, he knew this was gonna happen. It didn't come as a surprise to him as much as it was to us. Much as a surprise to us, and through it, he had to kind of break us down,
Mm-hmm.
and he is currently still building something new in us. We don't know 100% exactly what that is or what that's gonna be, but I feel like, or we know that he has a plan and a purpose, in all of this and all the pain and the suffering that we did go through, not only just with this stroke, but with other events in our lives. And, um, we're just excited and open, and we want to see what that is going to be. We just don't know. So we know that the Lord has a plan, and he does for you as well. You might be going through a hard time, or a loved one might be going through a hard time, and you're suffering because they are, and you're just confused, and you just don't know what's going to happen, when or why it's happening. But the Lord has a plan and a purpose in it. I know it might sound, you know kind of Christianese and trite for us to say something, but like, we've been through it. We're not just saying it just to say it, and we're like these, rich YouTuber influencers who nothing bad happened to us, and we're just saying things just to say it. But we've gone through things, and we've come out the other side, and we're okay. We're still here. Our family's still together, thank God. And We all have good relationships, and it's not always the case with everybody, but it is always the case that God has a plan and a purpose for it.
And it's how we, choose to look at it. I remember in the weeks, when he was still in the ICU, on Facebook, Lisa Turkhurst, I don't know how you say her last name, but she's like the Proverbs 31 ministry lady, but she had wrote this little bit on Facebook about, when you're in a dark season, you can look at it as either a womb or a tomb. And, is this a death of your life, or what everything you've known? You can look at all the things you've lost and focus on that. Or is it a birth of something new, and is God going to replace all of these things that you've lost with something even greater? And, so often I pick, that picture of the little girl, with her doll or a bear or something, and Jesus is asking her to give it to him, and he has like this huge bear behind his back, and stuffed bear, and he's asking her to give it to him so that he could give her the this huge stuffed bear, and and she's kind of like doesn't want to, and and that's oftentimes how it is, like these horrible dark seasons. A lot of times it's asking for us to give up something, and in this case, like I literally had the conversation with the Lord, like, would I give, am I like, could I give him up? Like, if that's what he was asking, could I do it? And, and I, like, everything within me was heck no. And before this had happened, like, that was literally my worst fear, the worst thing that I could ever imagine happening. And, suddenly you're faced with it. And like, I really had to come to the point where I was like, okay, Lord, like, if this is what you're doing and what you are asking of me, like I have to say yes, like I can't, like I know that your plan is greater than mine, and I feel like that child, and he was holding something so much better behind his back, like years of prayers of stuff with our relationship and with our kids, and so many things that we've I mean, I don't know, but I've specifically like prayed for, and never knew how we would ever get to that place. Not that our relationship is bad, because it's always been good, but we all have things, and like he's answered every single one of those prayers. And yeah, so you just believe, like if you are in a deep dark season, believe that he has something greater. And it may not, right now you may be screaming inside with everything, like nothing, like what could be greater than what I have right now, but I promise you there is. So
Yeah.
we both didn't mean to cry this whole time.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what that's why we're here. Want to be able to share the lessons that we've learned, and the hope, and the peace that God has given us through these hard times, and I know that some of you are going through hard times yourselves. It's just life, and that's just a Christian life. Like, we're not immune from that. But what we do gain is lessons. We do get closer to the Lord through it. He does oftentimes have greater gifts for us hiding behind his back, and all we got to, we just have to get through this, seemingly long period of hard times, but it's really a short period compared to what he has for us, and obviously compared to eternity. So that's our hope and our prayer, is that this channel and these videos can really help and encourage you in your walk, and that's what we want. We love you. We care for you guys, and don't be afraid to leave comments in the comment section if you have any prayer requests. If you're going through something yourself, you don't have to share anything personal, obviously, but
you can always email us,
yeah,
message us.
yeah, exactly. And we wanna pray for you, and we want to pray with you on those things. We don't want to just drop these videos and bounce. We really want to help. We've been helped so much by so many different people. Um, we want to return the favor, for sure. So with that, thank you for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun YouTuber stuff. And we will be back next week, Monday at 3 Central Time. And thanks again for watching. We love you.
Have a good day.